It kind of builds into a lot of our storylines that we have going. I mean, Trifecta, what was the main thing that we brought up prior to this set even starting is the fact that they look like they could have the possibilities to be a top team at times, but then there's so much of the inconsistency factor that all kind of gets washed away. And I don't want to say that like losing a game to Luminosity automatically makes you an awful team, because I think that Luminosity, for what it's worth, aren't playing up to their potential either. I think that we have seen clear inconsistencies between both of these teams, but Luminosity, I think that these are the kind of wins that they need to sort of build on and like kind of reaffirm to the team that roster swaps aren't necessary. Like you don't need to change anything. I think you just need to build even more so onto your current team experience.
That's the key. Just take what you already have there. The ingredients are already lined up. Just mix them and match them a little bit better. No Terra, no Chernabog. LG doesn't want to see that again. No Circuit. And I think the Chernabog right now is really tough. It's funny, in the ranked environment, I think Chernabog is just a must-ban period overall, because the power of the individual...
It's the chaos.
Exactly. The power of the individual, just teleport anywhere on the map, is really, really big. In a competitive environment, communication does kind of mitigate the effect of that to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, you still have a late game hunter teleporting to somebody and getting a whole bunch of stats for it.
I think it's also the 40% damage mitigation that it feels really heavy-handed whenever you're a hunter trying to box into the Chernabog, because while he's still critting you for the same amount, you're hitting for like 200 and something, and you automatically just feel really bad in that moment, because you can't win a boxing trade realistically as a hunter unless you're drastically further ahead of the Chernabog. But even then, I mean, he probably won't be flying into you if that's the case. I think that Chernabog is just very unforgiving towards other hunters, and that the second you fall behind, you're just going to permanently stay there. And in competitive level play, we see that being supplemented a little bit here and there, because teams just know how to mitigate the damage a little bit better. They send their jungler over, they send their solo laner over. You look for the unexpected ganks against the Fed God, but that doesn't mean that they work out, even if you know what the right answer is.
Still, very, very scary. First half of the draft done. Cerberus, Medusa, and Thor for LG. I think a little bit more cut and dry composition as compared to Trifecta's. Sylvanus first pick overall because, of course, Raijin and Nemesis here. I like the Nemesis specifically because a Thor in the jungle, if that's where he goes, a Thor in the jungle winds up being a hybrid character most of the time. Very rarely is he built kind of pure glass cannon. So the Nemesis can really be a nice look there. And even if he's solo, he's going to be a little bit tankier. The Raijin on Paul. I don't have to say anything else. There's no analysis. It's just Paul playing Raijin, and that's scary.
And Trifecta, they knew that they had to prioritize this pick if Paul was going to get it, but it does raise a little bit of concern. I've noticed that a lot of Trifecta success has also come whenever the Raijin has been picked for Paul.
Oh, yeah.
So it's certainly a god that he feels very comfortable with. Combined alongside of the Nemesis, I think that this could be a bit shaky in the early game. You've got the slow off the slice and dice. That can be nice whenever you're trying to connect with some of the Raiju follow-up damage and whatnot, but there's also the problem where Nemesis isn't exactly the most aggressive god in the game early on. I think that Medusa and Thor can definitely have some heavy turn and burn capabilities there, and that's probably the reason why we see Luminosity. And I love the way that Luminosity does this also whenever they do their double hunter compositions. They don't go for two mid-game stage hunters. They always make sure to include at least one late game carry potential, and I think that we're looking at that Hachiman for it specifically. keegsmate probably going to be rocking the Medusa, although they are interchangeable. I wouldn't be upset to see Medusa in duo for Clout. It's just that I feel Medusa will have more pressure than the Hachiman in mid.
And Hachi has also been one of Clout's kind of go-to characters, not recently, but way in the spring and the beginning of the summer, specifically when LG was really crushing it.
Yes.
Clout, Hachi, every game. I tweeted, I was like, can somebody ban Hachi against Clout?
No one was.
Yeah, nobody. They just let them play it. Hopefully now we get to see the same sort of play out of Clout on the Hachi. Game 3, the rubber match. Trifecta, LG. Take it away, casters.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Taco. Finch totally going into Game 3. Bonus smite.
Oh, yeah.
Between Trifecta and LG. The double Hunter comp coming out along with that Chang'e. So plenty of magic damage, too.
Definitely the case with the Chang'e. I'm still surprised we're not seeing a Giannis, and also surprised not to see a Zhonghui in this set, man. It's just like a pick that's been risen in through the meta. Neither team really wanting to explore that option, despite it being the very last game for them in the SPL summer.
That's right. Summer is just about coming to a close. Just got that land that we're going to be wrapping up shortly. But there's so many strong gods to pick from right now, Tully. There's so many great picks. More stuff is viable than ever right now, it feels like. So I love that we're seeing all this variety. But I got to ask, and it's a tough one. Who's winning this Game 3? I mean, both teams have looked so close.
I don't know, man. Both of these teams are doing great plays and then scratching my head on other plays.
Right.
And there's pretty lengthy games between games 1 and 2, and I think that this game is going to be kicking off to a faster pace, considering how much already momentum that they've had from those previous team fights in games 1 and 2.
That's right. This one feels like one of those games that might be over quick, or we might be in for the long haul here, right, Tully?
We'll
as we get ready to move into Game 3 here between these two teams. And I'm interested to see where the polls are on that mixer poll in a little bit, because this set's been so close. No one's looked dominant at any point between these two teams.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the fans vote for this, because it's more about fandom, I think, than actually predicting what's going to happen. Because
it's so hard, right?
I can barely predict what these two teams are going to pull out in the woodworks. Going for a different style of hunters as well, with Chernobog being banned away in game number 3. So we're seeing a Jing wave versus a Hachiman. Not very common in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, which is surprising because Hachiman's still great. I feel like he's fallen off just a little bit in terms of popularity, just a bit, but he's still excellent. Mounted archery is still great for safety. Heavenly Banner to accelerate everyone's attack speed. That's going to synergize great between him and this Medusa. And I love that they're not going to be missing out on magic damage. Cerberus certainly brings it and is going to amplify Chang'e's as well.
That's true. It's going to do a lot of amplification damage with the Ghastly Breath. It's so important to really figure out the right magical damage dealer to pair up with a Cerberus. And KikiSoCheeky has relatively good cooldowns in terms of spamming some of his abilities. And the longer and longer the teamfight lasts, the more favorable it should be for LG.
Totally, despite the closeness of those first two sets. Looks like it's still very even, at least in the fans' mind. Or not even, but split in the fans' mind. Trifecta gets almost 70% of the vote with that 69% and 31% for LG.
Just a nice number to have for Trifecta as they approach game number 3. Weaken, taking way more damage than he bargained for. And I think the key to success for Paul is this Raijin, because you don't have to get that close to the action as compared to a Hob 1. More importantly, the Thunder Crash. It gets you from point A to point B quicker than going over the magic carpet, even though the water carpet does help the rest of your teammates. But also going through walls is an important deal for Raijin. That's why the Odin was a priority pick for LG in game number 2 to shut down Paul's Hobwa and Zapman's Artemis.
Paul paired along with some support from Mask and Neil in game 1. That was a big part of how they ended up finishing that one off. The Taiko drums really was what put an end to it and set up for the rest of the squad to clean up that fight. Can he have that same kind of performance here, Tully? That's the sort of the replication that he's going to be looking for, that big Taiko drums damage. The setup, not quite as great. I mean, still Sylvanus can be good, of course, the Wrath of Terra, but it's not like Cerberus bringing him to you on a silver platter, so you're going to need to be a little bit better.
Nice little juke from Clout, avoiding the pull from NeiruMah. And I like that you mentioned the setup to help Paul assist the damage, but honestly, he might not necessarily need all that setup as the team fights progress in these little corridors. That one team fight that really wasn't set up in game number 1. It was just all of LG clumping up because the way Mask flanked on the Ratatasker, the way Scary D blinked into the action. And I think we could see an easily replicated effect if Paul gets left unchecked.
Going back over towards that solo lane, Scary D is ahead in those Warriors blessing stacks. Not too surprising. Osiris pretty good at building those up because he can do such safe damage from range that even Chang'e can't quite match. So not too surprising to see him being able to be pretty comfortably ahead in those stacks.
It's a 5-second cooldown on his first ability, about 10 seconds or so on his second, and that's why Scary D is leading the charge and also being very aggressive with the basic attacks on top. Kiki's spending more time running away from Scary D than he is even clearing the wave. Forced to back now and will have a difference of about 20 to 25 seconds on that teleport.
Yeah, looks like Scary D backed really quick, finished those boots, came back in, even expended the Lord of the Afterlife to sort of harass Kiki just now and force him to take his back now a little bit earlier than he wanted. Tier 2 of the breastplate versus Scary D finishing off the Warrior Tabi entirely really might throw off that that teleport timing for Kiki.
And I think Kiki is actually not putting a point into his ultimate on purpose, knowing that Scary D used that ultimate. If we take a look at what Kiki is leveling up, he has 3 points in that first ability. I like this min-maxing out of the Chang'e player because he doesn't have to worry about Lord of the Afterlife. He should be level 6 as Scary D's ultimate is coming up, so he can at least get some poke off during the 60 seconds.
That's right. He's got a little bit more of a safety factor. Not going to need the Waxing Moon so much underneath the tower. And you can see him, that Crescent Moon Dance, getting good damage off on the minions already. So I love this recognition from Kiki. And just to talk a little bit about Kiki, he's LG plays through Kiki so rarely that he doesn't get quite as much credit as I feel like he deserves because, you know, they play through Benji a lot on E United, right? Or they'll play through, you know, Veneno or Scream. But over here for LG, rarely is Kiki the win condition, but he's always doing such work for this team, and he just doesn't quite get the credit.
He plays a lot of utility style. When he plays the Odin, he's always looking for some dual lane pressure and rotation. Scary D, aggressive with the tether, not using that Lord of the Afterlife until now.
But perfectly baited there by Kiki, but he's still too far from the tower, and Weaken not quite there with the Anvil of Dawn off to the right, and Kiki ends up falling. First blood to Trifecta.
Scary D misses his ultimate, but more importantly, Weaken missing his and also mistiming it. Couldn't save his solo laner's life, and with that teleport not available for another 95 seconds, Scary D is going to build that experience gap even further. Top of the charts.
And no teleport. Remember, Scary D forced that out earlier with his own teleport in the Lord of the Afterlife aggressive usage, and that's why now Kiki taking the long walk back to lane. Weaken there a little bit off the mark. So was, as you said, Scary D. So that wasn't the cleanest fight overall. Everything happened so fast. They wanted to try and grab it. There's some nerves here. I mean, it's game 3. They want to be the ones that win, but you got to be able to maintain it in these moments, and without being able to land that ult, Kiki falls.
And the thing is, Scary D needed to use that ultimate to separate himself away from Mask, so that way Kiki wouldn't get a double waxing moon.
That's right,
on top.
yeah, he had to pick.
So he had to choose on top of that, and he also zones him away from entering that tower line. So Scary D's ultimate definitely a little bit more calculating than Weaken's was.
And the reason why Scary D misses is because Kiki is okay with moving further from the tower line because Weaken's coming into the fight, right? He would ordinarily move the exact direction Scary D went with his ultimate to get if he was alone, but because he had Weaken coming in, he calculates if I can get this stun from Weaken, it's okay, I'm a little bit further out. But because it's off the mark, that doesn't work out. So it might look like some missed abilities, but a lot of very quick calculations were happening. A lot of communication was happening very quickly in that fight. And more than just a couple ults being off the mark. I
like the fact that Scary D is just sitting on his passive, not using those basic attacks to diminish all that damage mitigation. At full passive, you're getting 8% magical mitigation, 16% physical. So he's able to just really start poking from a distance on top of Kiki, forcing him to trade out and use some of that mana while Kiki doesn't have the blue buff, as that was invaded immediately after the gank kill Kiki. One death on him is good in terms of Trifecta getting an edge on the solo lane, but it needs to be more than just one death, because a Chang'e rotating around level 14 is still going to be more impactful in controlling a team fight against the level 14 or even higher Scary D's Osiris.
Well, look at that. Mask is here again. He's not done. Remember, Chang'e, Kiki does not have this Warrior's Blessing done. He's a good bit behind Scary D in that department, so it's not going to be too hard for them to get this gank off. In fact, they're just going to strip the blue buff away yet again.
Trying to make it happen on the red buff. Zapman will not get his red. Uses the agility away from keegsmate. He's up in the sky. keegsmate is the target, but Zap could be in trouble.
Zap uses airstrike to re-engage. Weaken comes in, but Paul is his target, who goes right up under the Taiko drums. Clout comes in aggressively with the mounted archery, but it's misguided. Mask deletes him early on. Now Geno in trouble. The collapse is on from Trifecta. A double kill for Mask, and they're not done yet. Lord of the Afterlife on the Kiki. Triple kill for Mask as he takes down the solo laner.
Oh, look at the confidence from this young one. Looking to be more aggressive onto Weaken. Wants to even snatch away his back camps. daring Weekends to come into that one, as I believe Mask does secure that one, but couldn't
Gold.
secure the red buff. Gold Fury will be looked at after that 3-for-0 trade. And Luminosity, they wanted to force something on the left, considering they knew Mask was on the right invading Kiki's blue buff.
And so they try and go it on the red, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that it doesn't end up quite working for them as Trifecta grabbed the Gold Fury. A bit of a foregone conclusion after how easily they win that fight. But yeah, that's the call here. Mask on the right-hand side, try and strip away the red buff, but it goes so awry. They're kind of on disparate targets. Zapman has a great airstrike to get out of danger too, and even be more aggressive with a little bit more damage. Trifecta respond perfectly.
And the red buff has been the bane of existence for these two teams. Trifecta
yeah,
losing
considering game 2.
Trifecta losing game 2 off the red buff. LG making a huge error in that red buff invading game 1. They were just kind of waffling around a little bit too much, to the point that keegsmate was isolated from their teammates. Clout was trying to make a rotation in the mid lane. Both soul laners really making the impactful rotation with the teleport from Kiki, while ScareD was just walking casually over.
And no time to breathe for Kiki. Level 8 to level 11 for Scary. Weekend's got to get over here and try and equalize this, but the blue buff gets stolen yet again. No way to walk in with how far ahead Scary D is. Mass 2 levels up on Weekend as well. They really can't fight into this.
This is rough stuff. Kiki cannot get a breather in terms of getting his own blue buff. The Thor hammer gets negated by the Nemesis shield. Not going to be able to get the poke damage. And with more of these camps being stolen, Mask is building a comfortable lead over Weekend.
Grouping here in the mid lane. No pull from Neil. In fact, Geno moves forward aggressive. Mask is here, though, to try and even up. He drops the ultimate on the Weekend. Petrify! And all the damage from Keegs, though, finally shuts him down. Keegs does a great job taking care of the jungler here in the mid lane.
Mask is saying oops as he died there, not having his beats available for another 20 seconds. Wanting to get off the damage onto Mask, but couldn't turn away from keegsmate's gaze.
And you can tell Mask kind of feeling himself a bit, because he just kind of tries to walk by Weekend and Keegs there. I think initially he wanted Geno, who jumps over the wall and gets away, so he turns onto Weekend. But I mean, they're both just right there, and they just burn him.
And Weekend was very patient with his hammer. After the stun, trying to peel for Geno, he doesn't use the hammer for the initial damage. He recognizes that without his hammer, he's a sitting duck in general, and holding that on baits Mask in a bad spot.
Weekend able to get on out of there, so a nice play from the jungle. Mid lane combination after a rough start to this early game. That might have helped Weekend close his gap just a little bit, but not any real help for Kiki, where things are remaining rough. Mask is on his way yet again to be there for the blue buff timer. They're going to grab their own, but they really want Kiki's. And let's see what the response is from LG, because that's been a consistent strat from Trifecta.
Without Gold Fury available for another 2 minutes, Trifecta are free to look for those right side invades every single time. But LG, limiting some of the vision that Trifecta have around that red buff, could allow the next attempt to be a little safer for LG.
Kiki getting collapsed on. Blue buff can't be stripped this time. Weekend is here to try and help defend. Waxy Moon used in Mask, has those purification beads very early on. Keegs is rotated over along with Geno. This time they are going to be able to defend that blue buff. A nice strong response from LG will secure it.
That was very close towards not connecting. Kiki timing that Waxy Moon perfectly during the dash, but Mask still having the second dash to get out of danger before Weekend was able to follow up. And with that successful blue buff secure, it's going to allow Kiki to still catch up in the experience department, while Scary D is still being that lane nuisance. Once he gets that Pestilence, it's going to be even trickier for Kiki to stay relevant.
And the jungle solo is going to stay a problem for LG throughout this game, as everyone else is maintaining, you know, pretty much even. In fact, Keegs might even be a little bit ahead of Paul after finding that nice kill in the middle lane that he was able to grab onto Mask, who had a nice bounty there with his 3-0-1 start. So Keegs is in a good spot, but everyone else pretty much even in their matchups. They got to find a way to slow down Scary D. Level 13 Osiris rotating in against a double Hunter comp. That's going to be rough.
We saw what Divios was able to do in his first game, or the first set rather, was with the Osiris. It was just an absolute nightmare. But not getting the Gladiator shield is Scary D. Really wants to get that magical defense into Guardian Mail, the double Hunter composition between keegsmates, Medusa, Clout, Hachiman. It makes sense as to why he's going for the Guardian Mail, ignoring this bridge item that's even received a little bit of a buff to go from 15 to 20 power.
Right, Divios has really kind of been living by it, but Scary D not so much. He wants to make sure he's just as tanky as possible, can really be a nuisance, and just get off as many of those in-hands as possible. Because look at Mask. They're itemizing into this double hunter comp very early on. Witchblade comes out, Midgardian from Scary D. They're going to shut Keeks and Clout down.
Some teams forget about this item. Other teams worry too much about the hunters to the point that they get it into that third slot. It's going to hurt a little bit of Mask's damage, but utility Nemesis is not that bad when you're still one level above your counterpart jungler.
I don't hate this on Nemesis. It gives a lot of what she needs, right? The movement is still there. She's going to be able to close these gaps a lot more often. As there's some fight here in the mid lane, might have to hold that thought. Scary D takes some poke. And now there's action around the Gold Fury. Stygian Torment to try and move Mask away. It's going to pull everybody back in. Keeks and Kiki are right there. Neil falls early. Mask gets stunned out, and Weekend is on the mark with that one. Shuts down Mask. Keeks puts in the damage.
What a play from Geno. Uses the Stygian Torment to avoid the knock-up from NeiruMah's Wrath of Terror, even pulling both of them at the tail end of it, setting up Kiki for the double waxing moon. Weekend cleaning up a Mask, but LG with a 5-on-3 advantage, not going for Gold Fury.
But where have the successful fights been happening for LG, Toli? Away from the solo jungle side of the map, right? They're trying to force these fights over here in mid, force these fights in the jungle. As Zapman and Clout is kind of battling it out. Clout is losing it. Zapman goes in aggressive, but agility's away. All right, Zapman, get on out of there.
Zapman was purposely zoning Clout away from that wave. There was about 3 archers that entered the tower, zoning that from Clout. Hurts his experience ever so slightly, even a little bit of gold. That's why we're seeing the tier 2 Shoryuken versus the tier 1 out of Clout.
Zapman coming out just that little bit ahead, and he shouldn't have too hard of a time with his crit damage here in this match. No one really try and punish this Jing Wei at all, so once he's comfortably in these fights, he'll be doing plenty of damage as well. But LG answering back a bit these last few fights. Trifecta still have the lead. They're still up about 1,900 gold, and they've got some experience helping them out too, but LG have evened it out a good bit.
Uh-oh, Zapman looking frisky against Clout, doing some damage, holding onto the cavalry charge, forcing Geno to make these rotations. Hurts Clout in the sense that he has to now share this wave of experience. Meanwhile, Zap just applying more pressure, gets all this solo farm for himself, being able to separate himself from the Hachiman, gives him that mid-game pressure that he needs. Once he makes it back to get the Poison Star, this next Gold Fury should be easier for Trifecta.
Zapman trying to see if he can bait Clout into using something over there in solo lane, but as you mentioned, Clout being real patient, right? Not feeling the pressure there at all, especially with Geno right there around the corner. No matter archery, beads, or Aegis, or any of that comes out. In fact, he's backing already and getting that Poison Star finished up. Zapman should be right there with him. We'll see if they try and go over to the Gold Fury with some of that extra damage.
LG a little bit behind in the gold department, just kind of trying to get back in the experience as Kiki is getting on the offensive despite being behind 2 levels. He has plenty of cooldown reduction, 30% to be exact. Lotus Crown even to add some of the protections on top of it. NeiruMah taking way more damage than he can heal up anytime soon.
Yeah, this Transcendence Brawler strat here from Keegs. Got my boy swinging here in the mid-game, 2-0-1 on the Medusa, feeling very comfortable. But if Trifecta can make it through this mid-game to where they've got the late-game Jing Wei with all that crit online, they'll be feeling pretty comfy too.
Definitely could be the case. Keegs made a little bit of trouble in mid after the Mask ultimate, forced to use that Aegis to avoid any follow-up. Paul, not too much mana under his name, so he has to back on out soon if he wants to be useful in this next team fight.
Things have slowed down a bit, Toli. I mean,
a little bit.
Early on, Mask was able to kind of bully this Chang'e, but like you were saying, right around 14, 15, that becomes less of a less viable, especially with the Lotus Crown breastplate. And Mask hasn't really been able to find opportunities elsewhere. Keegs pretty big in the middle lane right now. No real room for Mask to bully him, and Zapman's kind of had Clout pushed back up here in duo as well. There hasn't really been any other good areas for Trifecta to go aggressive.
I mean, that's kind of what happens when Mask kind of AFKs in mid lane to die, and then all of a sudden a slight misstep trying to over-focus out Geno. And the rest of LG able to just capitalize on that and extend the farming ever so slightly, not going for the Gold Fury despite having a 2-player advantage, puts Trifecta back in the driver's seat if they really want to go for it. And despite not getting any kills, you know, even forcing out the Aegis onto Keegs is good enough for them to potentially make a play in the next 2 minutes.
Wallhammer is a nice combo from Weekend. It looks like that was enough for them to come grab gold 3, or at least start it up. It's at half HP. Airstrike from Zap if he wants it, but they're trying to bait this out. Geno blinks in, Wall force out the egg as LG grab the Gold Fury and control 2 of the Stygian Torment. Mask wants to return the favor. Scary D is here now to join the fray. Geno is going to fall down, so it's 1 for the Gold Fury.
33 seconds until the doggo respawns. Kiki's holding the mid lane. Weaken, no mana to be useful. There's 1 player advantage. I think Trifecta are going to go for the tier 1 mid with this minion wave.
If they can grab this tier 1, that should pretty closely even things back out here since they've already gotten 1 kill. Kiki steps up to clear the wave. They can't pull him back in or
so
control,
close.
but Scary D's
The
looping around the back
separation!
in.
So good was the separation. Weaken in the sky, lands onto Mask. Taiko drums coming through. Airstrike from Zapman, trying to chase out Weaken. Good hammer to disengage. The rest of Trifecta collapsing onto Clout.
Clout falls underneath the tier 1 tower. Scary D trying to chase down Keeks, but can't find him. The tier 1 tower eventually comes down. LG lose a couple members in Kiki and Clout, but Mask falls for Trifecta. Remember, the Gold Fury was grabbed earlier. They were able to find the pick on NotGeno, so really it's 3 kills that Trifecta are able to find. They only give up Mask, and Gold Fury goes the way of LG.
Getting that tier 1 mid tower gives them more mid-control pressure if they wanted to start shifting over to this Pyromancer. Paul is here with plenty of health off of Scary D's zoning. Trying to get Weaken a little bit further away. Paul is here, forces the hammer out. Geno taking about 20% of his health pool just like that. Similar story to game number 1. Paul is dictating the pressure onto Geno.
Weaken did have his hammer there totally as the Pyromancer goes down for Trifecta, so he is going to make it back out, but Trifecta answer back in a big way after that last big fight.
Getting a Pyromancer, getting the tier 1 mid tower, stealing away the speed buff from Weaken, allows Mask to still keep his 2-level lead. Going for the stone cutting sword now after the Switchblade, just getting more and more mobility for himself.
And the hide to me in line, and Thorn's there for Scary D. They're completing this anti-hunter itemization here very quickly and early on. Keegs and Cloud are going to continue to struggle into this itemization from Trifecta. They're going to be reliant a lot on Kiki, getting a ton of value here out of this Chang'e in the late game.
And Geno going for this Gauntlet of Thebes, sitting at 15 stacks. You know Trifecta are going to force some team fights with that item before it gets fully completed, because the auras, you have to be fully stacked to get any sort of auras, and you're getting more and more protections as you get those assists.
So yeah, Neil will be getting tankier, or rather Geno, but not so much for the rest of the squad, at least not at this point totally. So this is a great time for Trifecta to try and punish. But they had an early lead, but they couldn't quite capitalize it. We're at that 21-minute mark. Remember how even this set has been so far between these two teams, totally. I don't think we're that close to the end just yet. LG have been hanging on in these games, evening them back out, drawing them on later and later. They have a chance to do that here too.
Definitely possible. With Gold Fury coming up in 2 minutes or less, Trifecta could look for that as the next objective. A little bit too frisky if they were to go for the Fire Giant quite yet. There's still a lot of AoE damage from LG, specifically between Geno setting up Kiki and keegsmate for some easy abilities.
And they've been right there to follow up on these ultimates so far. Geno had a great ultimate right above the Gold Fury pit, a little bit north of it, where Geno has been able to bring them back. He's had a great set in so far, really, from this support position. Last time, Game 2, he was an instrumental part of how they were able to win it, and this Cerberus play has been great as well. If LG can kind of group up and play around that, they certainly can answer back, especially because they've itemized around this double hunter offensively, right? The Shogun's Kusari, only the one Executioner in the Aussie now for Keeks, giving some lifesteal. They've done a good job trying to make this double hunter work, as well as Trifecta have done trying to itemize against it.
Zapman walking over the ward, uses the agility to get away. Some long-range pot shots from Clout, gonna get Zapman down to about 70% of his health pool. And you're right, it was Geno playing very well in this game. His positioning has been good. His timing of his abilities have been good. I still question his itemization from time to time. If you're going to get Gauntlet of Thebes, it should be one of the first items you get after boots, because that stacking department matters so heavily. And on top of this, the sheer magical damage from Paul, you need to worry about that. You have to get some sort of magical defense. It's not a bad idea to be selfish sometimes and maybe get Bulwark of Hope, or even at least a hardware amulet. If you're going to look to help out your teammates in one way, get some magical defense for yourself to limit some of Paul's damage, because Spirit's Robe is all fine and dandy if you get set up, but Paul doesn't need setup to hit that Raiju percussive storm damage, so it's not going to proc the Spirit's Robe.
That's right. Geno's been very insistent on this hybrid build, right? This cloak tree in particular, where you get the all protections, the gauntlet, the Stone of Binding does the similar thing instead of, trying to itemize hard into one direction. But Gold Fury being burned very quickly, that's what these hunters can do. LG stripped the Gold Fury very quickly.
It was a good zone from Weekend as well, catching out NeiruMah and Mask. Not going to allow them to get any close to the action. Doing a lot of damage onto Mask as well. That stun lasting a long time. Could be a good idea potentially for Mask to get some crowd control reduction if he really wants to prevent that from ever occurring again. But instead, rushing for the Blood Forge. He's going to try to trickle down some of these team fights and waterfall it into his favor, getting that mobility and the health shield after.
That's right. That way when you go in and grab the kill, you should be able to get back out that much easier. Could certainly benefit Mask well, but LG playing around that double hunter comp really well just now. And as you said, Weekend doing a good job zoning them all out. But the Heavenly Banner coming in from Clout on top of just them being the double hunter as it is. A ton of extra damage onto the objective. Trifecta never had a chance to move into the pit. Can that same mentality work around the Fire Giant? Well, that's yet to be seen for LG.
We'll see. LG, they do have one Gold Fury above Trifecta, but are still trailing a little bit in the gold department, about 2,000 gold or so. Experience favoring out Trifecta even further, waiting for Clout to turn the corner. This could be troublesome. Maybe he sniffs it out, though.
Zapman and Mask just going to grab this purple, as it looks like Clout does recognize his aggression. We're definitely going to have our fight now around this red buff. Neil goes in for the root. Two-man Waxing Moon forces beads from Paul early on in the fight. He has a Thunder Crash away and avoids the ultimate from Weekend. Anvil of Dawn gets nothing this fight.
Once you see the hammer stop moving, that's when you got to disengage. Scary D zoning out 3, forcing out a shell. There goes the Stygian Torment, Wrath of Terror, Taiko drums onto Kiki, doing a lot of damage. Weekend even taking some of those shots. Forced to retreat is LG. Trifecta walk away without the red buff steal, but just getting some back harpies and more importantly, a lot of relics. The beads onto Keegs, shell from Geno, also the sprint out of Kiki.
Clout seeming very comfortable though at the end of that fight. Still has the Aegis and the beads available to him, so he won't be a great target. But Trifecta seeming a little bit disparate in their targets there in that fight. Even when Paul was up on the Taiko drums, they didn't really have a target locked down for him to put all 4 ticks of the drums into. So they really couldn't lock anyone in particular, but they do spread their damage out.
Ooh, Weekend could be in trouble. He's forced to hammer away. The Pyromancer less than 50% health. It's being juggled back and forth. Scary D eating quite a bit of damage. Geno jumps away, and that's going to mean go for Scary D.
Lord of the Afterlife lands onto Kiki, perhaps the most important target, as Trifecta end up low from the Heavenly Banner. They force him back. Trifecta push forward, but they can't quite find anything, and they can't all back because LG can heal up very nicely around Kiki on this Chang'e.
That was an aggressive teleport. That might be the only ward, actually, as Weekend goes in the sky right onto Paul.
He does force out the Aegis on the backhand side. Neil's in trouble. Clout comes through and removes him very quickly. Zapman gets walled off. The dash comes through. Petrify as well. Geno gets Zapman. Keegs finds a kill on the Mask as well very quickly. 3 members have fallen. In fact, Scary D's in trouble. Double kill for Keegs. Luminosity come barreling through the team fight and find 4 quick kills.
Trifecta were just too ambitious in the chase down, and with how much damage Scary D took, he couldn't get back in that team fight fast enough before LG forced that team fight 5-on-4. They destroyed that ward that he was teleporting to right next to the Fire Giant pit, and with that 5-on-4 advantage, abusing the fact that Paul didn't have the beat, so Weekend stun on the point, forcing the Raijin out of the equation. No Taiko drums to worry about, no Wrath of Terror to worry about, as NeiruMah was the first targeted selection. And the way keegsmate positioned himself, wrapping around that little cove to get the flank petrify was just very beautifully placed.
Well, Luminosity now free to grab all that extra gold. Tier 2 and solo goes down. Tier 2 and mid. There's still a couple towers left in the duo lane for LG to go grab, but they've got Fire Giant for 3.5 minutes. They got plenty of time to not only get those towers, but to get a couple Phoenix attempt sieges in as well. Trifecta got to go into defense mode now to try and keep Luminosity out of their base.
They certainly could do it. I think they have the siege potential the way Weekend has been playing this setup crew, kind of flanking around certain edges, using the wall to his fullest advantage, pokes out Mask long enough, or stuns out Mask long enough to guarantee the double tap, And as long as someone else could be around that corner of the stun, the rest of Luminosity can certainly thrive off of that setup, and plenty of time to be able to siege this, and plenty of gold on the table. 1,500 gold in the left side dual lane tower, and gold here respawning in 5 seconds can really put LG in that 6 item slot position.
Tier 2 tower comes down. LG just about finished off with those item builds, as you mentioned. In fact, Keegs is already done. So is KikiSoCheeky. Clout almost there. Looks like he's working on Deathbringer to finish the crit build off. Paul looking for some poke damage, but LG are ready to surge in once they get their minion wave.
Not able to find the bounces that he really wanted to. A nice little attempt. Weaken in the mid lane, trying to pull somebody away from the left side defense. Does get Mask to defend the mid lane, and this is a good idea considering Weaken has the global.
Neil gets the pull onto Kiki, but no immediate follow-up. Paul kind of cheated over towards mid lane a little bit. Weaken has his ultimate forced by Mask. Isn't going to ult aggressively, just falls back and regroups with the rest of LG. They're going to heal up with Kiki and siege again.
Wow, just not even using the blink to force out the ultimate from Weaken. Was not interested in taking that little 1v1 fight. Weaken, though, trying to get the hammer off. NeiruMah prevents the knockup, but he gets eliminated.
Scary D gets pulled in as well. The Taiko drums are coming out, and Weaken is going to fall thanks to those ticks and some damage from Paul, but it's 2 for 1 so far. LG being heavily favored. They still got Kiki, they still got Keegs and Clout, and tons of damage.
Without Weaken, they're not going to have that long-range stun setup, but they still have that one-player advantage. Plenty of timing, especially when Geno can hit paralyzing spits like that, preventing Paul from getting in the thick of things to defend.
No front line available for Trifecta, so they can't really defend. It's just Mass, Paul, and Zap for another 15 seconds until Neil rejoins the fray. Phoenix in left-hand side goes down. They want mid-Phoenix as well, and there's really no way for them to move up forward to try and defend. Mask is going to go forward to try and then zone them back. Zapman looking for shots. Mid-Phoenix still stands for now. Mask gets zoned away. Mid-Phoenix falls too. Luminosity opening up the base of Trifecta, but they can't move in just yet. Fire Giant, only 40 more seconds. They're going to fall back.
It's the sustain between the Fire Giant and the Chang'e from KikiSoCheeky, able to really make the impact. Such a utility-style player. Shogun's Kusari, the Rod of Asclepius, he's able to pump up his healing, going to 13,500. He struggled at the beginning of the game, but we were talking how Kiki is still going to do Chang'e things after that level 14 marker. Being 0-3-9, he doesn't need kills to make the impact that his team needs.
He's got almost as much healing as damage. Look, he was at like, what, 13,000, close to 14,000 healing.
Yep.
He has 16,000 player damage, most on his team, a little bit above Keegs. He's been building, as you said, so utility, 9 assists, a part of almost all the kills for his team, up there near the top in terms of participation, along with Keegs, who's been a part of all of them. I mean, Kiki, what more could you have wanted from this game on this Chang'e? LG in a comfortable position, almost ready to end this game, but not quite yet. Trifecta are still holding on. They can still come defend.
And I like the fact that Kiki is communicating with his team about what relics they want out of him. With the shell picked up from Geno and the blink, somebody has to go blink. So why not? Your utility-style player, your utility-style Chang'e. That's late game presence has certainly been felt by Trifecta, that's struggling now. 13,000 gold in the hole without their left or middle Phoenix. They certainly shouldn't overstep their boundaries trying to defend this Fire Giant that's due to respawn in less than 10 seconds.
They've stepped out pretty far, haven't they, to try and defend this. They've got the waves pushed up. They've even gotten Mask over there trying to keep them pushed up a little further. They bought themselves a little bit of time, but Luminosity, if they're patient, can just wait that out. Paul looking for poke on the weekend, can't find much. Fire Giant down now to half HP. NeiruMah gonna get pulled in. Geno with the Stygian Torment. Paul goes up onto the Taiko drums, but can't find the target. They do send LG back, but a weekend comes in and removes Neil from the game. That's a double kill for the Thor.
Paul nowhere to be seen after that one. Zapman can't even go into the air. 3 quick kills. Mask is looking to be the 4th one as only Scary D is left alive. The rest of LG gonna barrel down the mid lane and close out this set.
It's just one Scary D. What can he do up against the powerhouse that is LG at this point in the game? Medusa gonna push down right, but the rest of the squad just gonna walk down mid. Luminosity Gaming, they've had a rough summer split so far, but they're gonna try and end on a high note. Scary D not gonna be enough by himself. Half health on the Titan. LG are gonna take the set and close the split out strong.
What a performance from LG in this 3rd important game. closing it out when it really mattered most, doing a wonderful job in this one. It's time.
All right. That's us, apparently.
That's a little bit of a replay of us waiting for the game to happen.
We're getting down.
Yeah, we're getting down a little bit for esports, right? That's us getting down for esports in game number 3.
Totally not want to be a part of that one. Even casting myself back in the
I was
past.
thinking about dabbing there, to be.
You
I was
should have.
so glad I didn't dab.
Now
that
I'm
one.
disappointed that you didn't.
I was like, should I do it? Because I knew we were going to get memed, but I didn't think we were going to get memed right now.
Immediately, right? No time.
How
in
dare
between.
you, Matt?
Should have been watching the game, y'all. But that is a great game that ends up coming out from LG. They grab it 2-1. Great performance, really, there from the squad. I mean, we talked about Kiki's performance there, but Geno, again, got to give him more credit. Those staging tournaments are great.
Like, playing the Kumbhakarna, playing the Cerberus as well. Like, this is the kind of player you're looking for to set up your teammates. Getting the blink in game number 2, making the timing of his ultimates has been really impressive. Avoiding Wrath of Terrors and still pulling NeiruMah in the process is what's separating the difference between these two teams. Trifecta just can't be the primary engagers the same way they were in game number 1.
Well, who's going to be y'all's MVP? I believe you have the poll up for you right now to go ahead and select who it was that you liked in the Mixer chat and let us know, because there's tons of great choices for you all to make. I mean, KikiSoCheeky had some great games as well. Clout was providing the damage for them on the Hunters, but for me, I mean, that last game in particular, Kiki and Geno really stood out for me, facilitating for the rest of the squad.
It felt that way for sure. With the utility build that he did, Rod of Asclepius, he also had the Shogun's Kusari for his double Hunters, going for the Lotus Crown for the additional protections. Kiki's already a utility player in his own right, the way he puts himself out there, but just the build on top, you can really tell how much he thinks about his teammates before he thinks about himself.
Ends up getting them a great set victory here. LG looking comfortable. We're comfortable here too. We're actually going to be getting over to the desk. We want to hear their thoughts. They've been watching the game from a great perspective. Go ahead and give us all that top tier analysis, please. Tom.
That's
not me. Yo,
No,
this
who's
is some
that?
insane CGI.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The year is 2018, and Photoshop is at a whole different level.
Oh my goodness! What? Look at this. I don't know. That great stunt double. Great stunt double. That's all I can say. We need to make an action movie because those guys can stunt double for us.
I wish I still had some of those same moves, though. Not gonna lie. They look pretty impressive and in the moment.
I don't know. I've seen those gym selfies of you. I think you could absolutely handle yourself in an action movie. Luminosity handling themselves here in the final day of the summer split.
Why are they doing that?
I have no idea. I think it was puppets. You ever see like Muppets? You know, like strings? Maybe? The giant puppet?
This is like the indirect version of Caster Cam.
It really is. Weekend coming through the clutch on the Thor. I do want to give Weekend a shout out for playing Thor twice in his final week of the summer split. A god that he has been not very, people have made fun of him for his Thor, but you know what? MVP! Weekend's Thor. Jesus, what a weird world we live in, isn't it?
This is the complete 180 turnaround, you know?
No,
667 no longer.
No, he does like a 720.
He is. He made sure, though, to fully pop off the Thor.
Yeah.
I meant to say pop off
Yeah.
on the Thor.
Yeah.
Words are hard, but I
got
do
there.
them for a living, or I'm supposed to at least. I don't
got
know.
there.
You guys hire me, so.
Either way, Weekend and the boys do take the victory. Shoutouts. New coach, right?
New coach. Yeah, shout outs to their new coach at the Haiti. I do believe. I might have been butchering the pronunciation there, but the spelling should be all the same. H-A-I-T-H-I for their coach's name. You might see him or recognize him from some of your ranked games. He does tend to dwell in that territory a little bit more often than not, but it's been a really long 6 weeks, but it doesn't feel that way, at least not to us. I mean, you kind of just lose track of the time. You almost don't believe that this is the final day of the summer split even.
Yeah, for real. I mean, let's take a look at how everything went down. And you can see that at the beginning of the week, we had Team Dignitas beating SK Gaming. Water is wet, grass is green. No Wednesday, though. July 4th, we took off. We made Hindu Man come to work. But everybody else, only Hindu Man. He had to come in, clock in. He had to stand in front of the camera. Didn't have anything to cast. but had to stand there from 3 p.m. until about 7, and then we let him go home. Tuesday and Thursday, we put those games there so you can see the results. Let's take a look at how the leagues wound up. This, of course, is your final standings for the Summer Split. Energy and Rival coming to LAN. United Space Station coming to LAN. Luminosity, number 6. SK Gaming, do something.
And unless you're the number 1 team, I think that's exactly what every single one of these teams is trying to achieve, is just doing something different, whether they're actually heading into LAN or not. That is irrelevant. Right now, the grind is on. This is crunch time. This is all their crunch time leading up into the fall split. I can't stress it enough, folks. This is by far the most crucial part of the year coming up. And whether or not teams want to, I mean, we can try to sugarcoat it, but the reality is it's pretty much a lot of these teams' last chance, I think, for some players even, to really make their mark.
I mean, that's the truth. Summer Split, all said and done. Later on in the month, we'll see the LAN, and we'll crown a victor for the summertime. And, of course, after that, it's All-Star, baby. Then we go back to school. We go back to Fall Split, August through October. There it is. And then, of course, HRX, November 5th through the 10th is the placement round. And then 16th through the 18th, hi-rezexpo.com. Get your own tickets. The players got to play through all that stuff I mentioned. All you got to do is go to a website.
And you might get a chance to meet some of those players, depending on who manages to actually qualify through everything, because a fall split, it's going to be a bit of a doozy. Everybody's been saying, if you're not the number 1 team right now, and even if you are, there's no such thing as getting comfortable. I think that both United and Energy, respectively, do not feel very confident in their region, that they can just sit at home and not practicing, not worrying about a thing.
Well,
because everybody's catching up.
That's the thing. Everybody's catching up, and the fall split, for no unknown reason, is the one that the players kind of hit the gas for. I'm not saying anybody came to spring or summer split going like, all right, I'm chilling, but when it's fall time, all of these players' attitudes change. We've seen it. I mean, you've been on a competitive team. Now you're seeing it from our side. I've been doing this for a long time, and there is a distinct change in attitude when we end summer and we get to fall.
It's usually right around week 2.
Yeah.
It's not even like, it really is 0 to 100 kind of feel, because you can just feel the tension in like team environments start to really build up. If you aren't like top of the standings by the end of week 1 and like end of week 2, I mean, it's everybody's ready to like claw each other's eyes out pretty much. It gets pretty aggressive sometimes. People don't understand how stressful it can be from the other side of the pond, where you get to see the fun part from the pro perspective. You get to see their wins, and sure, you get to see some of the pain felt in the losses, but everything in between, it can be pretty crazy to handle. Yeah,
the summer split over now. It was a really interesting time. I think one of my favorite things was watching the ascent of Mouse. Mouse getting rid of Jermaine and coming through with Spudio. What a treat it was to really watch these guys. Any big takeaways you have from the summer split, Taco?
I still think we haven't seen everything from Splice. And I think that Mouse and Splice are like the 2 teams that I am indefinitely looking towards in the fall split, because that'll be their chance to finally stop saying, we're going to show you guys something. And it's like you have to present the Clasher project.
Sure.
You spent the whole year procrastinating, and everybody's like, okay, well, now it's your time to present, and you bring forward what you've got, and whether it's a catastrophe or a masterpiece, I mean, that's to be determined.
It's absolutely to be determined. We'll see it in the fall, and of course, we'll see the top 4 teams plus some global teams show up in just a little bit for the summer LAN. We'll crown a victor. Last time around, it was Rival. This time around, who knows? It's been a fantastic summer split. Thank you for spending these very hot 6 weeks with us here at Skillshot. We've had a lot of fun, but now it's time to look towards the LAN. Thank you.
I'm trying to replicate it.
Yeah, I'll deal with her. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you at LAN, baby.